Hi everybody, this is Ali. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, we're going to make beautiful things together. And if this is not your first time and you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I hope that what you have learned and seen from my channel have really helped you improve your sewing and crafting skills. Now, today we're going to make a project that is something that you don't know you need until you have it or until you see it and you're like, oh my gosh, that is such a useful product. We're going to make a foldable, portable clothing hanger. I use this when I travel because I can easily put this in my carry-on, in my bag, wherever. And when I'm at the hotel and I need to like rinse something off, or I go to the pool and I come back and I want to hang my swimsuit, all I do is hang it here. And you can hang this on the shower curtain rod or on a clothes hanger. You can hang this anywhere, and that you can carry with you, especially when you travel. Now, I use this also at home if I'm washing like a shirt or a blouse that I don't want to put in the dryer. I just hang it here, and I hang this again, like I said, I hang it on a clothing hanger, or I hang it on the towel bar in the bathroom, anywhere. I mean, this is so handy and so easy to make and so fast that you will be surprised. So this is what we're going to make today. I have added the link down in the description for some of the materials like the clothespins, etc. that I've used. Now, I recommend that you use clothespins that have some sort of opening so that you can insert the strap. Don't use any clothespins like the wooden ones, because they'll have like the little circle in the center and you're not going to be able to insert any piece of fabric there. I've added all the links down in the description. If you want the written instructions and the measurements, I have added the PDF to that also in the description, and you can get it that way. I will be raffling this one, the one that we made today, so it's going to be in the giveaway. So make sure that you signed up so that I can notify you if you are the winner of the giveaway. So now, if you haven't done it yet, would you please consider subscribing and hitting the bell button? That way you can get notifications when I upload the next video. And leave a comment down below and let me know, what do you think? If you're planning on making these, what are you going to use them for? I would love to hear from you. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for watching and enjoy today's tutorial. The materials that you will need for this project are pretty much scrap fabric. You can use any quilting cotton fabric, it will work. I have two pieces, one for the exterior and one for the lining. I also have two pieces of interfacing, one for the exterior and one for the lining. And this, you can use any interfacing that is good for your quilting cotton, that you will use on a regular basis. Nothing too stiff. You don't really want this to be stiff at all. I use this fusible web interfacing from Fabric Wholesale Direct. I'm not an affiliate. I'll put the link down in the description. This interfacing, they sell it by the yard, and it's $3.99 a yard, and the width is 58 inches wide. So it is so inexpensive compared to the regular interfacing that you will buy at a regular store, and it does the job. It is really lightweight, so it just gives the fabric just a little bit of stiffness, but not too much. So this is what I use. But if you decide that you want to make one like I did here using waterproof canvas for the lining, then you don't need to interface that. So you will only cut one interfacing, one piece of interfacing. You will need Velcro, or also, it's actually hoops and loops, that's the name, hoops and loops tape, but we all know it as Velcro, but that is not the real, that's the brand name. This is not the Velcro brand name. The little scratchy section is the hooks, and the little soft section of this tape is the loops. So you will need this, and pick a matching color that will go well with your fabric. You will definitely need the clothespins. Now for the clothespins, the one that I chose have this little bar right there so that you can put the strap. If you have any of the wooden clothespins, those do not work. Make sure that whatever clothespin you choose, that they actually have that little bar right there. So, or something, an opening where you can actually insert your strap, like here. See, here we're going to insert the strap, so just make sure you find something like that. Okay, you also are going to need little pieces of fabric, from the same scrap fabric, to make the straps. All the measurements are down in the description. So I have these. I did not interface these, it's not necessary. You will need a turning tool. This is not a turning tool, this is actually like a clay tool, but it works for me because it has that rounded edge and it works just fine. So this is what I use. You will need some sort of adhesive to apply to place your hoops and loops tape in place. Now you can use double-sided tape like this one. This is a 1/4 inch double-sided tape. If you don't have that, you can use liquid stitch or fabric tack. It's what it's up to you. Now you can also use a glue stick. They sell the fabric glue sticks, but I don't have the fabric glue stick, so I could use this one too, and I can show you how to use this so it doesn't get in the needle of your machine. Then you need, of course, some marking tools. We will be marking the fabric, so something that will not something that will erase easily, like this chalk, or erasable ink pen also works. And of course your wonder clips, you will use those. I use them all the time. And some fabric scissors, to cut any loose ends of the thread, etc. And your rotary cutter if you're cutting your fabric and you're in a ruler. I definitely used this little ruler, or you can use a 6x18 quilting ruler or 6x24. It's just to place the markings for the tabs. So you will need that. Another thing that you will need is an iron. Okay, so those are all your materials. Let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is interface my pieces of fabric, and you will follow the manufacturer instructions when it comes to interfacing your fabric. Okay, since I already have the iron hot and going, I am going to go ahead and finish using it for the other steps. So the next step is to make the straps, so the little straps that go in the clothespins. I already made one, right, to show you kind of like how to do it, and I did not use my iron for this one. I simply folded the piece of fabric in half, folded it again, and I just used my nails. But you are more than welcome to do it that way, or use the iron like I'm getting ready to do. But even after I do that, I always like to give it a press. It just makes the fabric easier to work with, and it just looks better. So I'm just going to fold it along the long edge fold it in half, open it, and then fold it on the inside, the long edges towards the center. And I'm just gonna press it there and do the same on the other side. Press it there and then fold it in half again. Okay. And the final measurement for this will be 1/2 inch wide by 3 inches long. Okay, so that is the size for the straps. So go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and do the rest. Do the same steps for the other 4. Now we're going to stitch these together using 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3mm stitch length. We're going to stitch all along both sides of the straps. In the way I do it is I just get started with one side and I continue and I do all 6 on one side, and then I turn it and I do the other side. So you'll see how I do this. And I always lock stitch at the beginning and at the end. So they're together like that. Now I'm going to stitch the other side. This is how they look, and now I just cut them here and separate them. Next, we're going to take our clothespins, and it's 6 of them. Let me make sure I have all 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm missing 1. 6. Perfect. Okay, we're going to take our 6 clothespins, and we're going to insert the strap that we just made into the clothespin. So we are going to go here or at the little bar that it's in there, and we're just going to insert it that way. Okay, like that. And so making sure that the raw edges here are even, you're going to take either a wonder clip or a regular clip, and you're just going to clip it together, and do that for all 6 of these clothespins. An optional step that you can do is that you can take this now to the sewing machine and stitch right there in the center to help the clothespin stay in place. You really don't have to do that. It's really optional. So if you want to do that now, this is a good time to do it. Now we're going to take our lining piece that has been interfaced, right? And with the right side facing you, make sure that the right side of the fabric is facing you. You are going to choose one side, whether either side is good. Just choose one side, and that is the side that you are going to place the markings for your clothespins. Okay, that's gonna be where you're gonna place your clothespins. The measurements I have are down in the description of this video for the placement of these. Okay. Okay. Perfect. So once you have placed the markings, you're going to take your clothespins and you're going to place them on top of those markings. So it's super important that you place them, again, the right side facing you. You are going to place the clothespins facing away from the markings, okay? So this way. So I'm just gonna switch the fabric, and my markings are here on the top, and I'm just going to place my clothespins like this. Make sure that the marking is at the half point of your strap of fabric. So this is 1/2 inch. So it's 1/2 inch. You're going to place it so the marking is right in the middle. Okay, and that is how it's going to look, just like that. Just like that. Now, you're going to take this to the sewing machine and you're going to stitch it at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. 3 millimeter stitch length is still good, but it's a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So you have to be careful as you get close to the wonder clip, you will remove it, and so that way it stays in place. But if you notice that it's moving, it's okay. Once it's in the sewing machine, you can just take this and just place it where it goes and make sure you run it under the needle. You will be fine, okay? You want it to be as straight as possible, obviously, and as even as possible. So let's go ahead and take this to the sewing machine now. Once we have finished that step, we are going to take the right side of your fabric and we're going to place it on top of the lining. We're going to sandwich the clothespins in between the lining and the exterior. Now here is where you will want to make sure that if you have a directional fabric, like I do in this case, that you pay attention to the direction. So when the cloth hanger is closed, you can actually see the design that you like. So for me, this fabric has the little rainbows going that way, right? And when I close it, I want the little rainbows. Some rainbows are gonna look that in the right direction, and some may look upside down. And there's really not much I can do about it. But say I want it to look that way, and this is how it's going to look. So I want my clothespins to hang from this side. So I look at my piece of fabric and I say, okay, I want my clothespins to hang from that side. So I am going to place that side of my fabric on the side where the clothespins are. Okay. So that way when I open it, it's like that. Yes. So double check. Make sure you play with your fabric, turn it inside out, do whatever you need to do to make sure that it is correct before you start stitching, okay? So at this point, what we're going to do is that we're going to take, I keep doing this. We're going to take our wonder clips or our pins, if you have pins or whatever you have, and we're going to join the exterior and the lining together, right sides facing each other, right sides together. Let me cut some of this off. Okay, and you're going to do that on all four sides. When you get to the bottom here, you're going to leave an opening of about 5 inches. So I take here half and I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, it doesn't have to be exact, but about 5 inches, 5, 6 inches, no more than that, you know, because then you'll have too much of a place to close. Or if it's too small, then you're gonna have a hard time turning it inside out. So 5.5 inches is good. So we're going to take our clips. I just like to put my clips right here. I don't know, it's easier for me than in the container for some reason. I don't know why. Okay, so it's done. Here it is. I am going to take it to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch it at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Again, 3 millimeter, 2.5, 3 millimeter stitch length. Just remember, leave the opening and you back stitch at the beginning and the end of your stitching. So you back stitch here and you back stitch here. Not in the corners, that's not necessary. Okay, so go ahead and take it to the sewing machine and do that. Now take the corners here and just trim them off like that. So that way when you turn this inside out, it's easier to get the corners to look pointy. Now we're going to use the iron or any heat that you have, a heat press or preferably an iron, okay? And you're going to press this to make sure everything is nice and crisp. Let me take this, the threads out, anything like that. And here in the opening, you're going to fold it in, and it will already give you the 1/4 inch measurement because the fabric is already folded like that. So all you're going to do is fold it in like this and you're going to press it. You're going to press it with an iron. Now, I, again, like to use my starch for this, especially for this section right here, because it will make it easier to keep that fabric folded in on the inside. So let's do that, okay? Just to keep my iron. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with this section right here. I'm going to start with, you can pick the lining, you can pick the exterior, it's all right. And I'm just going to fold it. And because I have some starch, it's definitely going to stay in place and it's going to look really good. Okay, and then I'll do the same on the other side. And this time I can use both. Okay. So you see how the pointy sides are here. And for this, just make sure that you wiggle the fabric, you push the fabric so the seam, so it's all the way out like that. So that way when you fold it, you don't, and you iron it, you iron the entire piece of fabric and there's no extra seam on the inside. Because sometimes the fabric will kind of fold in there when you're folding it. So just make sure that you can see, you see the stitching there, and you want that to be like that as much as you can, obviously. And for this section, what I do, you don't want to get the iron on your plastic clothespins, but I just pull them. I pull as I press them. That way I make sure that my fabric is fully flat and it's not like sinking in like this, and it's actually coming out. See how it's sinking in? If I leave it like that, it'll be fine, but it's actually supposed to be, see how it has some fabric in there? I don't want that. I want it to be completely out. So, okay, there. So that's looking good. That looks good. Perfect. So give it a good press on both sides. Now you're going to take this to the sewing machine and you're going to stitch it all along all four sides of this rectangle, and get rid of any little pieces of thread that you may have sticking out like this. Add 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I will still do 3mm stitch length. I know this is top stitching, and top stitching you want to do about 3.5 or even 4mm, but because I still have this opening here, I want to make sure that it doesn't come loose, because this is going to be a lot of wear and tear. So just back stitch here, go all around, and back stitch at the end. So we're getting ready to finish this project. We have completed all of it. Now what we need to do is attach the hoops and loops. And the hoops and loops, it's very easy to attach. You have two options here. You can either use, they get stuck. You can either use a double-sided tape. I used that for the previous projects that I completed. You can use a little bit of fabric tack. This is fabric glue. You can also use a little bit of liquid stitch, right? But I am going to try it right now, and that's super simple. You turn the hoop side or the loop side, whichever one you want to start with, upside down. So that way you can feel this is the backing. You're touching the back of the loop, of the tape. This is the back of the tape. And you can either, put a piece of tape there and do it that way. But I'm going to try using this regular glue. Now they sell fabric glue in a container like this. Okay, so they sell fabric glue in containers like this. And so it's super easy to apply. I obviously not using the fabric glue. I'm going to be using regular glue. But before we do that, I need to place a marking on my pouch here, on my hanger, that it's 1/4 inch up from the edge on both edges, okay? And that way I make sure that my hoops and loops tape, it's evenly placed on both sides of my hanger. And you can use, anything that it's not going to be noticeable. Okay, so I'm actually using this pen, but I'm planning on covering the marking with the hoops and loop tape. But if not, you can also use a chalk. Now this could be a little tricky to get the ruler to get flat right here, but as you can see, you just move the clothespins up and you can, get your ruler to be right there at the 1/4 inch mark. And because my fabric is so light, I may not be able to use the chalk. I may not be able to see. And I am not gonna write like a whole line. It's just some markings, just enough for me to place the hoops and loop on where it's supposed to go. Now for the side that has the clothespins, I like to put on that side the scratchy side of the hoops and loops tape. So this is the loops. And the only reason why I like to do that is because when you're opening and closing your hanger like this, because the clothespins are so heavy, you will tend to close it this way. And I don't know, I don't like to touch the scratchy side, so I like to touch the soft side. So that's why I put the soft side up here. But that is really a matter of preference. It's whatever you want to do. So I am going to place the soft side of the tape along the top edge right here. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to take my glue and I'm just going to place not a whole lot of glue like that. Don't do that. Just a little bit like this, right in the center. So make sure that you do not get any glue along the edges, okay? That's important. It's just in the center, just a little bit like this. We just want the glue to help keep the tape in place, so that it doesn't move when we move it from the table to the sewing machine. And so you see, just a little bit like that. Nothing, not a lot, just a little bit like that. just a little bit right in the center. And we're going to place it right on top of that 1/4 inch marking, and just make sure that it is even, you know, as center as you can. It really, you know, it's about 3/8 of an inch from each side. Okay. And if that's not enough, like it seems like it wasn't enough, you can just put a little bit more. Just make sure that it does not touch the edges, because that's where you're going to stitch. You're going to stitch along the edges. Let's place that in there. And just press it like this. And again, this is not going to, it's not a permanent glue. This is just so that I can move it around like this, you see, and take it to the sewing machine without risking it losing its position. And I'm going to do the same for the other side and then take it to the sewing machine. And that looks straight. Okay, when I take it to, when I measure it, I could actually, yeah, that's straight right there. So now we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and you're going to stitch all along the tape here, which is 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, using 3mm or 2.53 or 3mm stitch length. So all along that side right there, okay? And I like to stitch my Velcro, or, you know, hoops and loops, or my zipper tapes, or anything like that that I know is going to have a lot of wear and tear, that is going to be used a lot. I like to stitch it twice. So make sure you go around each tape at least twice, okay? And look how pretty it looks. Look at that. And that's how it looks open. And then if you want to close it, right, once you can just close it like that, and the Velcro will stay in place. And there you have your clothespins. And so you can just close it like that, and voila, there it is.